I'd like to call the March meeting of the Board of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District to order. And if we can, let's try to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just want to point out for the record that two of our members are present via computer link up, and so that composes a quorum for our meeting. So we have everybody here. Roll call, Mr. Farrar.
Mark Finkel.
Here.
Albert Hayes.
Here.
David Bergstrom.
Here.
Jeffrey Rosenthal.
Here.
Ken DeWitt.
Here.
Robert Smullen.
Here.
Robert Leslie.
Here.
Robert Fulton.
Here.
John Hodgson.
Here.
Stephanie Rozicki.
Here.
Richard Farrar. Here. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like a motion to adopt a revised agenda meeting. We need to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Yes, personnel matters to discuss.
So with that revision, I'd like a motion to accept the revised agenda meeting.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't see any guests or any speakers, no public comment. So we move right to number 7 on our list, the approval of the January 9th organizational and regular board meeting minutes, which we have received. Is there any additions or corrections? Motion to adapt?
I'll adapt it. Motion to adapt.
Second? Somebody, hey, wake up.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving us right to the report of our executive director.
Good morning, everyone. Since the last meeting in January, it's been 2 months since we've met. We've issued 9 weekly flag reports to the Executive Chamber and had 2 monthly conference calls with the Assistant Secretary Rajiv Shah and Office of Counsel. We have a new assistant, Jennifer Magliente. We also submitted the Governor's quarterly report on January 15, 2018. One thing I would note is that the Chamber has revised some of their public affairs initiatives, and we, the district, are now on a weekly basis supporting and supplying newsworthy events to the district, which is a good thing for us. You know, for instance, the January press release that we put out about flood prevention didn't get a lot of play. That will now get amplified through the state public affairs channels when good things come out about the district's good work. So I think overall it's a good event. Some executive actions noted here. The footprint of the lease office space at 350 Northern Boulevard in Albany is underway. We have a matter to discuss on that regarding the month-to-month lease as well as the new lease. But the prospect is for reducing the overhead through having less space and consolidating some of the functions here at SFO. We are also considering doing the same type of action in Watertown. We have a space up there that can be reduced by about 30 or 40%. We're working with OGS to reduce that space. We'll do some of the archives that are kept there. We'll consolidate them here in SFO, some of the historical things, and add it to our collection of archival materials below, which, for example, we used in the Harnessing Nature video that was produced over the past summer. So overall, just slimming the footprint down and reducing overhead so we can then take that money and put it more towards our maintenance efforts that are going forward that we'll discuss in the next coming meetings as we go towards the budget for 2018. I did attend moving on, the 2018 budget address by Governor Cuomo on Wednesday, January 16th. That indicated no change to the designated state share of regulating district revenue for either the Hudson or the Black River area. So that's good news, in that our funding that comes from the state share is in the budget, and I don't assess that there's any threat to that funding stream at this time. As you all know, I'm also a member of the New York Naval Militia. We did an initial planning conference for Exercise Rapid Gunnel 2018. It was held on the 26th of January at the Department of Military and Naval Affairs in Latham. This exercise is intended to be a multi-jurisdictional security exercise centered around Conflinville Dam. It will involve most likely Fulton County Sheriffs, Saratoga County Sheriffs, the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services for New York, as well as the New York Naval Militia's Military Emergency Boat Service. So it's basically it's an exercise that's going to highlight the Great Sacandaga Lake, but through the venue of a security exercise that will be held in September of 2018. And I'll keep the board apprised as we do further planning going towards that event. The Regulating District newsletter was released on February 8, 2018. I've been keeping very careful track of how people are responding to it. In this case, there is a recipient open rate of 51%. It goes out via constant contact. That's an exceptional open rate for mail products that are done through email bursts, but it's been falling a little bit. Our initial was 60%, it's went to 55%, now it's at 50%. So it's still being very well received, and in aggregate terms, it's been very well done. The click-through rate to go to the district's website for reservoir levels, other information that's provided in it, is at 8%, which is, again, an outstanding rate of return. So we have the audience out there is actually receiving it well, and I get numerous comments each month. All have been positive, saying keep the newsletter coming. Let's see. Last item, I went to the State Interfaith Prayer Breakfast on February 27th, keeping invitations from the governor, servicing those, and it was a good time. I got to sit with Bishop Emeritus Howard Hubbard from the Archdiocese of Albany, which was interesting. And last thing we've talked about having an executive session at the end of this meeting for personnel issues. Subject to your questions, that's my report for this month.
Any questions or comments? Gentlemen on the computer, anything?
Nothing? No, sir.
Thank you very much. With that, we move on to contracts and actions. Resolution to approve amendment number 3, contract C032013. Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My memorandum begins on page 7 regarding the Indian Lake Dam engineering assessment and recommendations for remedial measures. Back in April 2014, the board awarded work to Bergman Associates for the completion of the engineering assessment. And in 2015, Bergman completed a safety inspection and as well as the assessment. We submitted in October 2015 reports to the Department of Environmental Conservation, and DEC has gotten back with some response and comments, including the request for some additional information and additional analysis to be completed. And so we've asked Bergman to develop a proposal for completion of the additional engineering analysis necessary to address the DEC comments and to respond in a letter report. And the staff recommends acceptance of Bergman's proposal and seeks board authorization by resolution to amend the scope work for contract C03-2013 to include the tasks that were presented in Bergman's proposal and to increase the project budget by $7,335 to a total contract price of $305,801. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Yeah, I have it. Is it normal to have that many discrepancies from a report that goes to DEC?
Well, this is the first one that we've received response to from DEC. the regulations requiring the environmental assessments have only been in place for about 6 years, so I have no history to compare to. But consistent with, it's consistent with how the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission responds to almost every report that they receive. Invariably, you have to respond and you know, with additional information, possibly explore through additional studies, sensitivity analysis, or confirming some concern that the agency for jurisdiction, in this case DEC, has. So it's not inconsistent with regulators who have the responsibility for overseeing dam safety.
I'm just looking at like note 1A is the difference in the drainage areas was like 60 square miles from what we reported and what they picked up somewhere on some sort of record.
Some of that could be the use of previous studies, which our consultant adopted previous studies that had been accepted before. So that.
Okay.
But
I was reading through it. It was like one big discrepancy after another. I'm like, were they using a dart? Had a dartboard or? Okay.
An awful lot of it is certain assumptions you make too, in terms of engineering judgment. There's some advantage, obviously, to make certain assumptions and hope that you justified your case well enough that the agency of jurisdiction would accept the assumption. The response can either be to not accept entirely, or to have you show through further analysis that your assumption and in a way justify further those assumptions that you've made. So,
say there's 78 assumptions made and they accept 73 of them. It's cheaper to go that route and have them comment on the 5 than it is to basically vet out all those assumptions in the initial chapter.
Right.
I'm dealing with the APA right now at the town of Webb, and they just sent us a list of questions that we've already answered once, so I just didn't know if it was that.
You see it a lot of times with stability analysis, making certain assumptions that are concrete rock interface at the base of a concrete gravity structure.
Sure.
You can make certain assumptions without doing extensive boring work, and it may be accepted, or if the agency with jurisdiction is a little bit concerned that it might not be conservative enough, you might ask for additional information that justifies that assumption, or worst case scenario, in terms of expense for the project, they might actually ask for the physical verification. That's just one example of how the process would go through. It's easier to make the assumptions out of sound engineering judgment, and there's a bit of a range for even that, which an engineer can work out of, and based on that sound judgment, hopefully you will get acceptance, rather than spending an awful lot of money on field investigations or some other additional, more physical study, rather than an evaluation such as this.
Okay, thanks.
The description seems unfortunate that it has this linear review process rather than a more collaborative review process where DEC doesn't volunteer itself to involve itself with a fellow state agency to resolve those questions up front. But
unfortunately,
I hate to say that. I hate to suggest that's the way it is, but I guess that's the way it is. And we all, through our budget, bear the brunt of the additional expense.
Right.
Any other comments from here?
No.
Motion to accept the additional contract? the addition, or the amended contract, I should say.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Rosenthal.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Contract number 2, or B, resolution to approve extension of the Albany lease, Mr. Ferrara.
And I believe the revised agenda would also include a resolution for a new Albany lease.
Okay.
For at 350 Northern Boulevard. So I have a memo that basically addresses both. As the director pointed out, we've basically undertaken an effort to reduce our footprint at the Albany site. And in order to do that and to move into smaller space, actually on the
Mr.
same...
Ferrara, I apologize. I'd lose your audio.
Okay, I'll speak. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Now I
good.
can. Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So we're talking about the need to, for the board to approve a month-to-month extender for the current lease at Albany while the landlord is having our new space built out. And that will go, that month-to-month will become effective March 1 at a monthly rate of $1,776.50 or $16.50 a square foot or $21,318 a year. So the month-to-month will begin March 1st, and I would guess that, and the new lease would go into effect, I believe the terms and conditions, when we move in, or 5 days following the completion of the demised space. So the next 2 years, so it's a 3-year lease for the new lease. Second year would be $17 a square foot, or $1,830 monthly, or $21,964. Third year, $1,750 a square foot, $1,884 a month, $22,610. All in all, over the 3-year period, we'll save over $50,000 moving into that space, which was our intent and goal. So there's 2 resolutions. One would be the month-to-month extender, and the other resolution would be once the space is available and we move in, then we go with the 3-year lease.
Okay. So
Board has any questions?
any questions?
A question.
No.
Probably directed to Council Leslie. Rob, I'm a little, I don't know if I'm concerned or just confused over the characterization. On the one hand, it is a month-to-month lease, and yet on the other hand, it seems to characterize it as a 1-year lease or even a 3-year lease, but a 1-year lease with options to extend or renew. Which is it?
There's 2 leases in contemplation here. The first is a month-to-month lease, which the executive director has already executed. The board would be ratifying that action by the executive director to get us out of potential penalties for being a holdover on the last 2-year lease that we were in that just expired February 28th. The second resolution is for a new lease on different premises. We moved from 304, Suite 304 on the 3rd floor of 350 Northern Boulevard to Suite 307 on the 3rd floor of 350 Northern Boulevard. So you're talking about 2 separate leases.
Correct.
The cost to the district for the month-to-month is determined by the projected cost of the first year of the lease on the new space. Basically, that forced the landlord to reduce our rent on our current space.
Correct.
pending completion by them of the build-out of our new space.
Okay,
So the month-to-month is actually at a reduced rate. We're not gonna pay our current monthly rate.
I was gonna ask that, okay. I
Right, so
got
it's a
it.
reduced
until
fee.
such time as we're able to, my concern is, I mean, a month to month, our benefit gives us the option to provide a 1 month advance notice that we intend to terminate and vacate. The flip side, which is not to our benefit potentially, is the landlord's similar right to say, on a month-to-month tenancy, I no longer want to lease to you, and the landlord, owner, can give us 1 month's advance notice of that, and we're without space.
Yeah, I suppose if they don't build out the space that we plan to move into, we can terminate the month-to-month and leave and go somewhere else.
But he can do that as well.
That's true, but he could already do that at the end of the lease that we just had expire. He could have told us to vacate.
Okay. I just want the record to be clear that we're actually in, the regulating district is entering in effectively into a month-to-month tenancy. And we have no guarantees that the owner-landlord will extend for the full period. I mean, I'm comfortable with that if our council and the rest of the board is comfortable with that, but I think we should be clear in what we're entering into at this juncture. No guarantees for this, in other words.
When's the projection when we'll be in the new space?
The end of March is what we've asked them.
Oh, okay, so this is, okay.
And if there's any concerns from Mr. Rosenthal, if the landlord does go ahead and abrogate the agreement, temporarily we would simply move our engineering staff to this office and then go back. We'd actually very carefully considered several office spaces, and this was both the most economical and the most practical, was to move within the existing building at 350 Northern Boulevard from Suite 304 to 307. They were very accommodating because they do desire to keep us as tenants, being a long-term tenant there at that place.
And Colonel, I want to make it clear to you, the board, I'm comfortable with this. Just for clarity, understand the nature and the legal dynamics of the agreement. Those possibilities are out there. The likelihood is probably slim to none, but that possibility still exists.
It does.
All right, any other, we have to take both of these up separately?
Correct.
Okay.
Please. Month-to-month.
So we want to, I need a resolution to authorize the month-to-month lease until our new space is completed at the reduced rate of, what is this, $1776.50?
Correct.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Bergstresser.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we need a motion to accept the new lease, and also at $1776.50, well, for the first year,
Correct.
at $16.50 per square foot. Do you have to mention the other rates?
Then 17 the second year and 17.50 the third year.
Any, somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. DeWitt.
Any second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. Bergstresser.
Any further discussion? I'm pulling teeth today. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to staff and committee reports. General Counsel, Mr. West.
So let's see, regarding the litigation surrounding PERC's headwater benefit assessment orders, as reported earlier on December 22nd, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit denied Erie Boulevard Harbor Power's petition to overturn the two recent PERC orders setting the dates upon which Erie must commence paying headwater benefits. The 45-day period during which Erie could have moved the panel for rehearing or a hearing before the entire D.C. Circuit expired on February 5th. While Erie can still file a petition for certiorari with the U.S. Supreme Court, such a petition would be a long shot. Supreme Court typically looks for a split between circuit courts, not evident here, before granting cert. On the Bria land deal, leather stocking abstract is complete with the abstract title and draft title policy for the purchase of the land adjacent to the Hawkinsville Dam. We have, Mr. Farrar has secured approval from the state comptroller for the payment of $7,800. We have that check in hand at this point. I've notified Bria's counsel of the fact that we have that check. My expectation is that we'll have a meeting with them where we iron out the final details of what we can do with regard to improvements that would facilitate canoe and kayak access to the water upstream of the dam, and at that point close it out. So we're getting closer on that issue. I filed the semi-annual domestic violence and workplace report with the New York State Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence. We had no reported known incidents of domestic violence affecting the regulating district's employee within the July 31st to December 31st reporting period. If anybody is aware of anything to the contrary, let myself or Director Smallman know. Whether it happens here or happens at home, we want to know about it and take steps to address it. I guess we addressed 3 now for requests during the reporting period. I had noted 2, but it looks like 3 because one came in yesterday. Friday, we addressed it yesterday. That's my report. Any questions?
Very good, thank you. Any questions?
Just one. Any time frame under federal procedure, Rob, within which they must seek their certiorari to the Supreme Court?
I think it's 30 days.
So that also really has expired, has it not?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Minus the mail-in.
Oh, of course.
Okay. Compliance officer, Mrs. Hickey. Hi. I had to look around. I said, is she in the room?
My report is on page 33. ESD MWBE has released the report card for the fiscal year 17-18 quarter 1 and 2. We received an 8+ on both of those, and the maximum score was 21. Our 17-18 bulletin has been approved. 18-19 has been submitted as pending approval. Several other required MWBE reports have been submitted. Our veteran master goal plan has been submitted and is pending review. Our new employees have been provided all the required training. Our quarterly internal control compliance testing was completed at all offices. And on pages 34, 35, and 36 are the contract review reports. Please review them. Their inclusion in your board packet satisfies the public authority requirement. That completes my report unless you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Gentlemen?
No.
Thank you. Chief Fiscal Officer, Mr. Farrar.
Mr. Chairman, my report can be found on page, my summary report's on page 37. Detail goes out to page 87. I'll focus on my summary as I always do. In terms of assessment reporting, everything is up to date in both watersheds. A couple caveats in the black. We have 2 small operators. One is Ampersand Hydro for $8,802, and the other is Climax Manufacturing Paper Division or something for $5,632. They have not paid their assessment. We've gone through the general statutory procedures, but it appears that Climax Manufacturing, whatever I'm not sure if that's their current name or They have, is that current name? Has gone Chapter 11, so I think it's staff's opinion that collection of that is probably not going to happen. Good news is it's $5,000. It's a very small part of the apportionment, but we'll certainly look into that and see what we can do to get anything out of that. Ampersand was late last year and did eventually pay. I guess that gives me some hope that they'll also pay this year, and it just could be, fiscal constraints on their side that's delaying the payment. Most of my time has been spent continuing to refine the district's next 3-year budget. That's the budget that begins this July 1 and ends June 30th, 2021. Particularly the maintenance plan, which drives the associated debt service. Actually this morning I provided the Finance Committee with a copy of the draft of that budget. Gave a kind of a 50,000-foot, if you will, summary of what those pages contain, and we can certainly have a dialogue. My thought process going forward is that April will probably be a good time and have however many informal gatherings of the committee chair and others, the executive director, the chair, and we can certainly go through that. I was also thinking that in terms of formal committee meetings, probably would stick with the May and June meetings to have formal finance committee meetings, the June committee meeting leading to the ultimate adoption of the budget. The budget report that the board gave me authority to complete and submit has been submitted, and I basically used, because there's a lot of out years in that forecast that include this next 3-year budget, so I basically used the draft as kind of my guideline, the basis of this forecast. Again, it's just a forecast, so I wanted to be as consistent as possible with the information that we provide. And I believe that's the highlights of my report. If the board has any questions?
Any questions?
I have none.
I had a chance to look at that budgeting process. I'm very impressed. A lot of work went into it. So when the whole board sees it, I think you're going to be very impressed with the work that was done.
I'd offer one thing with regard to bankruptcy. I would consider the assessment a tax and non-dischargeable. I agree with Mr. Farrar's assessment. We're not likely to see money soon, but eventually I think we will see that assessment.
And we will continue. Again, we follow the statutory process. It will get on their tax bill, and at some point.
Okay, any other questions? Any comments, questions? No. Thank you very much. Engineering report, Mr. Cole.
Hankel, my report begins on page 88. February, we had above average precipitation in the Hudson as well as the Black River area. And as a result, in the Hudson River area, we have inflow to Great Sacandaga Lake and Indian Lake of 194%, 183% of the historic average. So that's clearly reflected if you look at the graphs that are included in my report, reflecting about the third week in February, our increase in reservoir elevation for Hudson area. We have, for a period of time in February, had to cut back on our releases as a result of the natural flow, both in the Hudson and in the Black River. We resumed releases toward the end of February. Actually picked up pretty substantially now with our releases, close to 4,000 CFS out of Great Sacandaga Lake and over 700 CFS at Stillwater Reservoir. So those reservoirs are starting to drop back down to closer to our targets and historic averages. The Fulton Chain Lakes, we did not have nearly as great an inflow through the period, and as such, those reservoirs are very close to their target elevation. We're actually completing another snow survey today. Generally speaking, the previous snow survey was done right before some of this runoff. We're close to, if not slightly above, historic average. And so a good effort to recalibrate and redirect ourselves based on this current snow survey, but I don't suspect we'll anything too unusual and or too much different from what we had 2 weeks ago in terms of snowpack. So right now, I think that generally speaking, the forecast is for moderately increasing temperatures and not an awful lot of precip. So there is no forecast that would at least concern me that the spring freshet at this point will be something that we should concern ourselves with. But then again, it could be weeks away, and the weather could change in another 2 weeks from what they forecasted today. So, but in any event, I think we're pretty well positioned despite some of the unusual runoff that we've had during the winter, in the series of thaws that we've had. I think we're still in pretty good condition and prepared for springtime. So, I'd be happy to answer any questions again.
Just as a general, this heavy influx of water into the lakes, what does that do to the ice and stuff? I mean, does it make the lake more dangerous?
Well, it certainly can, it will lift the ice and cause what would otherwise probably smooth surface to become somewhat irregular. Certainly change in elevations will always do that to an ice surface. Yeah.
And when it drops, it must leave a space between.
They certainly could leave some gaps. You could get some ridges in there, and it could bridge over certain areas. That's certainly possible.
Okay, I'm more curious than anything else. Any other questions? Thank you for the report. Hudson River Black River Area Administrator, Mr. Hodgins.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Let's see, 2018 renewals today.
I can't hear Mr. Hudson at all.
2018 renewals, we've received 90% of them back today. Staff attended EAP training, and we had a washout up on East Stony Creek in Hope Falls probably 3 weeks ago now, and I do have some pictures for some of you. And we assisted with Hamilton County in repair of these of the washout. If you can see them or not, but
Can you see that?
I assume this is along Sacandaga. I'm not familiar with it.
well, East Stony is a tributary
Yeah.
that flows into Sacandaga River and then to the lake.
Yeah.
But our property goes quite a ways up that road, and so the washout was close to the road. So working with Hamilton County, we had it repaired in like 2 days. This is their only way in because another road up north of this bridge was closed because of an ice jam. So if that ice jam let go, it would have totally taken that road out, and then people wouldn't have had access in or out of that area. So it was a good effort between the two of us, and got the job completed.
I just wanted to add, in my mind, this was a good example of shared services where it was both economical and practical. 3 different public organizations involved. The regulating district, it was our property, Hamilton County, and the town of Hope. And very quickly we were able to distribute both the costs, but also the work tasks that went into it. it's a really good example of multi-level jurisdictional people sharing services to do it as quickly and as economically as possible. So all parties to it it was a very good example going forward for how operations around the lake can possibly go.
I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody may have.
Mr. DeWitt?
Yeah.
We lost Mr. DeWitt.
We still have a quorum.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you. Any board member questions or comments of any kind? Other than this glossary of terms that it ended up, very nice. Whoever prepared that, that's nice to have.
Yeah, I put that together
Thank
actually
you.
as a result of Mr. DeWitt emailing me with a couple of questions on
Yes.
some terms that were used by DEC, some acronyms that they were using that they didn't completely
The government speaks
define
in initials.
initially, and as a result of that, I thought it'd be pretty helpful
Very
to
nice,
have
thank
it.
you.
We'll
Thank you very
try
much.
to get that on the website also, so that you don't have to carry the glossary with you all the time. If you happen to be able to access the website, you can probably.
So the board members will memorize that between meetings.
Sure.
There'll be a quiz in,
You can do that too.
resolution, our next board meeting, next regular board meeting, which will be April 10th in Watertown. Need a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Hayes?
Second?
I'll second it.
All in
Mr.
favor?
Bartresser?
Aye.
Aye.
Kevin,
Any
Chairman,
opposed?
I won't be home on the 10th of April, so the notice and technology constraints still exist. I don't know what is or is not in Watertown. Just want to bring that to the board's attention.
Okay,
No idea.
We'll find out.
we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Now I need a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters. And we will be coming out, there will be no resolutions coming out of executive session.
No business.
Motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Bartresser?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Mr.
All in
Hayes?
favor? Aye.
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 I'd like the director to stay.
Say again?